All right, now we're going to be talking about some diatonic elevenths, all based on the key of G major. And this is a great way to start breaking out from the traditional rock metal triad sound. We are still going to be using sweep picking, but these are going to be a little bit more extended into a couple of positions. And each one of these arpeggios is based on the formula of each mode in the key. So, for example, in the key of G major, the G major scale is just based on the formula 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, which means root, major second, major third, perfect fourth, perfect fifth, major 7, and perfect octave. So what we're doing is building an 11th chord, and it's based on the 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, and 11. And here is the first shape. Let's talk about the picking on this one. So you got up, down, 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 up, down, 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 up, pull off, up, 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 down, up, 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 down. So we actually have 3 notes on the D string, and you're going to pick them all up, down, 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 up, down. Okay? So just watch for that because it's not all consecutive sweep picking. All right, these are pretty cool arpeggios, but if you're only used to the triad sound, it might take a little bit of getting used to because there's a lot more tones in there than just the 1, 3, and the 5. So let's move on. Let's check out the next arpeggio. This is A minor 11. This is based on the A Dorian mode, and it goes like this. So also the picking on all of these examples is going to be the same as example number 1. So you got up, down, 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 up, down, 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 up, pull off, up, 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 down, up, 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 down. Example number 3 is based on the Phrygian minor mode. This one is going to be B minor 11 flat 9. All right. All right, example number 4 is based on the C Lydian mode. It's going to be C major sharp 11. All right, the next example is D11, based on the D Mixolydian mode. All right, example number 6 is E minor 11, based on the E natural minor scale. All right, example number 7 is F sharp minor 7 flat 5 flat 9 11, based on the F sharp Locrian minor mode. All right, in this section we're going to be talking about diatonic 13s from the key of G major. So basically we're going to be taking the 11ths to the next step by adding in the 13. So the formulas will all be 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, and 13. Now again, each one of these is going to be based on each consecutive mode in the key, so all the formulas will vary based on that mode's formula. So let's get started with G major 13. It goes like this. All right, so let's talk about the picking on this one. It's going to be up, down, 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 hammer, down, 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 up, pull off, up, 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 pull off, up, up, down. And that's going to be the picking used throughout this entire lesson. All right, example number 2 is A minor 13, based on A Dorian minor. And then up next we have B minor 7 flat 9 11 flat 13, based on B Phrygian minor. All right, up next is C major 13 sharp 11, based on the Lydian mode. Up next is D13, dominant 13 that is, based on the mixed Lydian mode. Number 6 is E minor flat 13, based on E natural minor. And the last one is F sharp minor 7 flat 5 flat 9 11 flat 13. All right, in this lesson we're going to be talking about extended diatonic 13s. So it's based on the similar concept of the 13s in the last lesson. We're going to be extending them up a little bit more linear across the fretboard. Now each one of these arpeggios, just like the 11s and 13s that we've already covered, are based on each mode in the key. These are all in G major. And the first one we're going to talk about is G major 13. So let's check it out and look at the extensions and the picking on it. So here's the first one, G major 13. So on this one, instead of continuing up in a single position, we're going to go to the 9th, up a whole step and a half from 7 on the same string. So 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, 13, 1, 3, 5. Okay, so that's how all of these are going to be laying out. And the picking on these is going to go like this. Up, down, 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 up, down, 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 up, pull off, up, 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 down, up, 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 down. All right, so on to number 2. This one's A minor 13. This one's based on the A Dorian mode and is starting on the 6th string, 5th fret. All right, up next is B minor 7 flat 9 11 flat 13. This one's based on B Phrygian minor, starting on the 6th string 7th fret. Up next is C major sharp 11 13, and this one's based off the Lydian mode, 6th string, 8th fret. All right, up next is example number 5. This is D dominant 13, based on the D mixed Lydian mode, 6th string, 10th fret. With a little additional jamming on the end, I was just throwing in some the regular traditional major shapes, all based on D. And example number 6 is E minor flat 13. This is based on the E natural minor mode, 6th string, 12th fret. All right, and last but certainly not least is F sharp minor 7 flat 5 flat 9 11 flat 13, based on F sharp Locrian minor, mode 7, and we're on the 6th string, 14th fret. All right, in this lesson we're going to be talking about 13th arpeggios based off of the B harmonic minor scale. And if you're not familiar with B harmonic minor, it simply goes like this. All right, so this first arpeggio is B minor major flat 13. And it goes like this. We've got an up, down, 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 hammer, down, down, up, pull off, up, pull off, up, down. So. And some of these fingerings are kind of weird, so let's just check out exactly what I'm doing on this as well. So we've got index, ring, middle, index, pinky, middle, index, pinky. All right, here's example number 2. We're starting on the 6th string, 9th fret. All right, the fingering on these are pretty weird too, so let's check it out. You got index, pinky, middle, index, pinky, middle, index, pinky, and you pull off middle, ring, index, middle, pinky, index. All right, here's example number 3. It's starting on the 6th string, 10th fret, D. All right, here's example number 4, starting on the 6th string, 12th fret, E. All right, here's example number 5. So this one's starting on the 6th string, 14th fret, F sharp. And here's the fingering. Index, pinky, middle, index, ring, middle, index, pinky. All right, here's example number 6, starting on the 6th string, 3rd fret, G. The fingering on this is index, pinky, middle, index, pinky, middle, index, pinky. This one's not as weird as some of the others. All right, here's example number 7. This one's starting on the 6th fret of the 6th string, A sharp. It goes like this. All right, so the fingering is index, pinky, middle, index, pinky, middle, index, pinky. All right, in this section we're going to be talking about some 4th string arpeggios that are primarily based on fifths. But before we get too far into the lesson, let's take a look at what we're going to be doing for the technique. So we're going to start this example on the 4th string, 12th fret, and it's going to be your index finger. And you're actually using all 4 fingers on this example. So index on 12, middle on 14, ring on 15, and pinky on 17. So you got a shape that looks like this. And the picking is going to be, well, it's going to be pretty simple in context, but it's one down pick and one up pick, and what that means is that the highest and lowest notes will get picked twice on the turnaround. So you get something that goes like this. All right, now that you know how to do the technique, let's get into the first example. So almost every one of these examples is going to be primarily based out of the key of G major. But I'm going to try to play most of these up in the higher area of the fretboard. So I'm actually going to be starting on the C, which is in the key of G, which is the 4th. And this is actually going to create us some C Lydian sounds, because we're going to be doing the initial 5th shapes, or 5s, so 1, 5, 1, 5. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to start throwing in other scale tones based around the positioning that I'm in. So in this position on the 1st string, we have a D, E, F sharp, and a G. And those notes as compared to a C root, would be the 2, 3, sharp 4, and 5. And you got to remember the sharp 4 because we're in C Lydian. So I don't have any specific order that I usually play these in, because when I'm using them, I'm improvising or whatnot, and you can just kind of throw them in any order you like. So here's one variation. Some of these fingerings are kind of hard, especially this one right here where you reach over and get the E with your middle finger. That one's kind of tricky, so yeah, that's a tougher one for me. I like that note especially because that really brings out the Lydian sound. All right, so example number 2 is starting on the 4th string, 12th fret, and this is going to be D, and the initial pattern again is just fifths, and we're going to be adding in tones from the D mixed Lydian scale, because when you're in the key of G, D is the note that produces the mixed Lydian mode. So on the 1st string, we've got 12, 14, 15, and 17, and we'll just hit our variations. So. All right, example number 3 is going to start on the 4th string, 14th fret, and this position is going to be borrowing from E natural minor, which is mode 6 of the key of G. And we have, again, the initial fifths stacked, and the notes we're going to be bringing in from the key are going to be 14, 17, 19, 14, 15, 17, and 19, and then also 20 in this example. So all right, so example number 4 is going to start on G on the 4th string, 17th fret, and it goes like this. And the next example starts on A on the 4th string, 19th fret. And here we go. And we're going to be bringing in notes on 19, 20, and 22. And the 24 is going to be the highest tone. All right, and that leads us up to the next example, which I'm going to be changing keys on this one. I'm going to be bringing it into the key of C major, and we're going to be basing it off of E, and this is going to give us an E Phrygian minor sound. And this is one of my particular favorites because I really like the way the flat 9 sounds in E Phrygian minor. So here's our initial shape. The notes we're going to be bringing in on the high E string are 13, 15, 17, and then the 5th up top is 19. And this note right here at 13, that's the key note that's really cool to me, and that is the flat 9. So here we go. All right. All right, let's break this example down. This is sweeping fifths. We're in the key of C major. I'm starting on a D, and I'm just kind of taking the fifths through the key. And when you're in the key of C major and you start on D, you got D5, E5, F5, G5, and A5. And we're just all doing straight fifths on this example. So here it is a little bit slower. All right, here it is up to speed. All right, that was two-string sweeping. And let's talk about the technique involved in this. It's basically just that, a two-string sweep. We're going to do one down pick across two strings, and you're going to do one up pick across two strings. Sounds simple enough. However, the technique is kind of tricky in getting all the proper separation. So when you're doing this, you can take a look at something simple like this. We'll play 15 and 15 on the high E and B string. What you're going to do is All right, when I'm playing this, you'll notice that little pivoting motion in the first joint of my index finger. That's just to keep the notes from bleeding together as much as possible. Now, with this type of sweep picking technique, you are going to have a little bit more bleed between the notes than you would on all of the other traditional stuff that you normally hear. So it's okay to have a little bit, but you want to try to keep it to as minimum as possible. And when you're playing this technique faster, that motion that you see right there is going to go away. It's going to get really small, and it might even become where you can't even really see that it's happening. And that's just because the speed that's involved in it, the mute that you're going to be using with your finger is going to be so slight. All right, so there's the picking technique. Let's get into example number 1. All right, this example starts on the 12th fret. All right, that was example number 1. Now let's break it down a little bit slower. And since this is such a long piece, we're probably going to break it down into sections. So let's just talk about the first part. And the first part consists of an E minor arpeggio on the first string and second string at the 12th fret. And you're going to start with this. Okay, there's the first measure. Here comes the second chord. All right, here's the next one. And chord 4. All right, that was section 1. Now what you're going to do is when you're playing this piece, you're going to actually do that part twice. Okay, so before we go into the next section, there's a chord that ties the two sections together. So here's the one arpeggio that's missing thus far from connecting the sections. It goes like this. All right, so that's pretty cool so far. So if we review it from a chord context, you got like an E minor, C major, C sharp diminished, D major. You go back through one more time for the repeat. E minor, C major, C sharp diminished, D major, and then the chord that connects the two sections, the section we're about to go into, is D sharp diminished. All right, this leads us up into the next section. So let's check this out. All right, that's the first part, and that's just basically an E minor arpeggio, and then we're going to move down to D major. And we're going to go to C. And then back to D. then repeat. So. Alrighty, that's section 2. Now we're coming up on the third section, which is what I call the Lydian section, because it's based around the C Lydian major mode, and it starts with a kind of a C add 9 sharp 11 sound, and then it goes to just a stock C major sound. Okay, and that's going to give us this. And then it's going to go to a B sus4. So. All right, the next section starts with the climb. All right, there's that section, and getting into the last part, we're going to start with some 3-string sweeps on this section, which the first chord is based on a G major sound to a G sus4. All right, next section, slow. Next chord. All right, next chord. Next chord. All right, here it is up to speed. All right, in this example, we're doing some more two-string arpeggios, but with this technique, it's a little bit more economy pick based than two-string sweeping. I mean, we are sweeping across two strings, but we're not coming right back in a normal two-string kind of way. So let's take a look at this lick slow. We got. All right, that's an E minor arpeggio played on two strings, and you're starting with an up pick, so up, down, down, up, down, up. And there's your pattern, up, down, down, up, down, up. And then we are going to go to an E sus2 arpeggio, and it goes like this. And these are some pretty big stretches, so you're just going to have to work up to it and get into the groove of things and just, you know, practice this kind of stuff slow because it takes time. There's some pretty big stretches in there. You know, at one of the stretches, you're doing a whole step and a half between these two fingers right here, and that's pretty tough at first. So, all right, the next chord is going to be D sus4, and it goes like this. And it's all the same picking. And then we're going to go to D. And then we have an A minor. To a sus2. Here it is all together. All right, in this section we're going to be talking about some diminished seventh arpeggios and the way I use them. The way I use diminished seventh arpeggios is not really over a diminished seventh chord, but it's over a Phrygian dominant mode or rhythm constructed from the Phrygian dominant mode. And Phrygian dominant is mode 5 of harmonic minor, and these examples are going to be based around the key of E harmonic minor, but in a B Phrygian minor harmony, because B Phrygian minor is mode 5 of E harmonic minor. Also, the diminished seventh arpeggio is symmetrical in nature, meaning that every time it inverts, which is the same notes just moved up a certain degree, in this case a whole step and a half, every time it inverts, it's the exact same fingering. So if you look at the first diagram, you're going to notice that it's just all mapped out all the way across the neck, and it looks something like this. And all of those examples, well, it's one arpeggio. I consider it to be a B Phrygian dominant sound. And when what's actually happening is the way the four notes of the diminished seventh arpeggio affect a B major chord is it ends up being the flat 9, the third, the fifth, and the seventh of a B major chord. So that's why you can play diminished seventh arpeggios over a B major chord in this example, because it's giving you the sound of B9 or B7 flat 9, okay, which is an altered dominant sound. So all of these examples are going to be based around this sound and key. So let's talk about the technique that I'm using for this stuff, which is going to be sweep picking. And the next example just demonstrates the technique in a single position, which these are fives ascending. could actually use that all the way across the fretboard. All right, so the next example goes like this. And what I'm doing here is more of a traditional way to sweep a shape like this. You're starting with up, down, 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 up, pull off, up, up, down. Okay, and then you just loop that. You can play that through any of the positions. And the next example combines the first two approaches. So you get the ascending and descending, and then you get just an ascending 5. So all right, you'll notice in the next diagram, we're now looking at the diminished 7th arpeggio as it lays out on the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th strings. And so you get this. All right, so let's take a look at the same techniques but applied to this string group. So there's your ascending 5. All right, and here it is in more traditional sweeping. All right, now what we're going to do is combine the first group with the second group. So we're going to look at 2 5s tied together with sweep picking. So we're going to start on the first one on the 4th string, 7th fret, and we're going to do the initial shape. And then we're going to tie it to shape string on the 3rd string. And what this does, is, again, this is a perfect sweep picking example because there's no hammer-ons and pull-offs in it. So you're going to go up, down, 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 up, down, 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 up. And you can just run that all the way across the fretboard using those patterns. And again, the key to a lot of this diminished 7th stuff is to remember that it inverts in minor thirds, meaning that every time you move it a whole step and a half, it's the same notes, just a different order of them. All right, so let's just check out another variation. So what we're doing is ascending and descending through the first pattern based on strings 2, 3, and 4. And then we're going to pick it up on the 3rd string with an up pick. And do the same sequence on that string group. All right, so the next example, I'm going to show you how to tie these together across all 6 strings. It's still going to be based on the initial 5-note patterns that works out perfectly for your sweep picking. So we're going to start this one on the 6th string, 8th fret. It goes like this. So you got 8, 11, 9, 7, 10. And then that's going to tie us or lead us into the next pattern based off the 5th string. So 9, 12, 10, 8, 11. That leads us right into the 4th string group, 10, 13, 11, 10, 13. And the last group is 11, 14, 13, 11, 14. So slowly. All right, there's that one. One more time. All right, and if you wanted to, you could actually move that one through every position as it inverts through the neck. That's pretty cool, and it's pretty tough. So let's check out the next example. All right, this example is basically the same example we just did, but in a descending manner. So let's check it out. All right, the descending patterns are a little bit tougher. Not sure exactly what the theory behind that is for me in my own playing, but I have a lot better luck with the ascending stuff and usually use it more in an ascending way. So if the descending ones seem harder for you too, that's probably a little bit natural. So let's check out the final example in this section. It goes like this. So basically on this one, we're just using one of the sequences that we learned earlier. And then tying that together with each string group. So basically on this one, we're just using one of the sequences that we learned earlier. And then tying that together with each string group. All right, here's what some of the diminished seventh arpeggios sound like over a B major chord. All right, in this section we're going to be talking about how to apply diminished seventh arpeggios to a legato approach. So we're going to be staying with the same key, same arpeggios, just with legato. Now, before we actually do any legato diminished seventh examples, let me just kind of break down how I approach legato playing. And just for simplicity, I'm going to use a D major scale. So basically, when I play legato and approach legato, I only pick the first note of the ascending string. So if we play a D major scale, it's just going to be pick, hammer, hammer, 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 pick, hammer, hammer. So there's only one pick, and it's on the first note of the ascending string. Now when I descend, I don't pick at all. So if you put that together, so the general rule to follow with this stuff is only pick the first note of the ascending string, no picking at all when you descend. So let's check out the first diminished seventh example. You're going to start on the third string, 8th fret, so 8, 11, 12, pick, hammer, hammer, skip to the first string, same frets, pick, hammer, hammer, pull, pull. You have to skip back to the third string, hammer, pull, and pull, and then you repeat. All right, and just like in the previous lesson where we talked about diminished seventh arpeggios and how they invert in minor thirds, well, the same thing applies here. You just got some big stretches. So let's check out the next example. So basically in this one I'm just showing you how to move it into the next position. And with some additional jamming on the end, all I was doing is just continuing to move it up and follow the rule of the diminished seventh, which is to move in minor thirds, again, which is just moving a whole step and a half. You just repeat the pattern, and you can play it everywhere across the neck as long as you follow those guidelines. All right, in this one I'm basically just showing you how to start combining string groups. So with this one we're going to be starting with string groups 2 and 4, or strings 2 and 4, and then we're going to ascend into strings 1 and 3. It goes like this. All right, in this next example, I'm going to show you how to take what we've just done and move it across multiple positions. All right, so basically what you're doing is starting with the initial shape. And then what I'm doing to get into the next position is I'm basing it off where I started the very first note. The very first note was on the 4th string, 10th fret. So that means to start over on the 4th string, I'm going to have to be a whole step and a half higher, which is at 13. So all together. Now, also, if you notice, when I actually start that next group, I don't actually start on the 13th fret. I'm actually starting on 19, but I'm basing the distance off of where my index finger will be for the next position. So even though I'm starting up here, I'm still basing it off this note right here. All right, in this example, we're going to be using legato diminished sevenths, but this time with tapping. And for this example, I'm going to be using what I call T2 and T3, which just stands for tapping with your second and tapping with your third. But we're not going to be doing the traditional Eddie Van Halen style tapping. We're going to be using tapping in a way that it produces a roll and not a single note kind of application. So we're actually going to start with the tap, and it's going to be on the 19th fret. So you're going to tap with your middle finger. You're going to hammer onto the 22nd fret. Pull off to your middle finger on 19, and then pull off to your left hand shape. That's 16, 13, 10. And then you're going to skip and do the same thing on the B string. Now, if this is a new technique to you, what you can actually do is you can just sit here in this single position and get used to the roll. Just make that into an exercise. As a matter of fact, you can just play that anywhere. You know, do anything like that just to help develop the technique. So, all right, getting back to the lick. All right, in this lesson we're going to be talking about 3-octave legato arpeggios that use string skipping as well. And this is a pretty cool approach, and I think the running theme throughout this program is really that there are multiple approaches to arpeggios beyond just sweep picking. I think a lot of guitar players that are new to arpeggios generally have the thought process that arpeggios are only done with sweep picking. Well, that's not actually the case. You can play arpeggios with many different techniques, sweep picking, legato, hammer-ons, pull-offs, tapping, alternate picking, and that's some of the stuff we're going to start getting into here. So let's take a look at this first pattern. It goes like this. So there's some pretty big stretches in here, so let's just take a look at some of the fingers that I'm using. So sometimes I'll start with my pinky and sometimes I'll start with my ring finger. It just depends. So either one of those is an okay option. But when I go to the fifth string, the first finger that I'm going to use is going to be my index finger, because that's going to set me up for the next stretch, which is from 7 to 12. So now from here, we're going to have to make another position shift or jump. So my index finger is now going to go to the 4th string, 10th fret. So that's a pretty big jump as well. And now I'm going to be playing 12 with my middle finger, which a second ago I was playing it with the pinky. So because of the shift, now I'm in a new position. So now you got middle, index, pinky. And here's the skip. We're going to go from the D string to the B string. Okay, I'm going to play the last 4 notes with index, middle, index, pinky. All right, there's example number 1. Now let's check out what happens when you turn it into a diminished. For this one, we're going to take a look at B diminished. It's going to be on the 6th string, 7th fret, and we're going to start right here. All right, so there's your B diminished. And one of the things I'd like to throw in here is this sequence that I'm using for this, for these arpeggios in this lesson is based off an old pentatonic sequence that I learned years ago. It's just kind of a classic rock kind of sequence. And if you take a look at it in an A minor pentatonic scale, it's just kind of an old school Jimmy Page. Old school Jimmy Page sequence, pentatonics and legato. And you know, the cool thing about it is if you're not really into that more old school or traditional sound, there's still something you can take from it, because I just took that simple little idea and applied it to a 3-octave string skipping legato arpeggio, and voila, it totally breathes some new life into the idea. So don't be afraid to explore other possibilities. So up next is C major. All right, here it is up to speed. Okay, last example is C augmented. All right, on this last one, I'm going to break it down slowly for you and talk a little bit about the fingerings on it. And we're going to start off in 8 and 12 with index to pinky. And then we're going to go to the 11th fret on the 5th string and play index, pinky, and that'll be 11 to 15. And then as we make the position shift, I'm going to jump up to the 4th string, 14th fret, and that's going to be index. My pinky's going to play 18 on the 4th string. But because of the sequence, I'm going to have to go back to the 5th string. That's going to be the middle finger on the 15th fret, and then from there I continue to ascend through the sequence, index, pinky on 14 and 18, skip to the B string, and we're going to have 13 and 17, that's going to be index and ring, and then we go to the high E string with index on 18 and pinky on 20. that does it for the 3-octave string skipping legato arpeggios. All right, that was a 3-octave E minor arpeggio that uses tapping, and it goes like this, slow. We're going to start with a tap on the 24th fret of the high E string. We're going to tap 24, pull off to 19, which is going to be played with your pinky, pulling off to 16, which is your index finger, and then we're going to play 17, 16, 18, 19, 14, 16, and 12. So tap, pull, pull, hammer, 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 pull, hammer, pull. Now, when I ascend this, I actually add some sweeping into it. So once again, check it out. So on the ascend, I'm going to pick 12, hammer on to 14, and then I'm going to come across and pick 14, and then hammer on to 19, and then I'm going to sweep, starting on the D string, down, 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 up. So. All right, this next example is going to be D sharp diminished, and we're going to be starting by tapping on the 24th fret, pulling off to 17, and then we're going to pull off to 14. On the next string, we've got 16, 14, 16, 18, 12, 14, 11. So. And it's the exact same technique. Tap, legato when you descend, add the sweep back in when you ascend. All right, and then we have C sharp minor. And this one's going to start on the 21st fret. You're going to pull off to 16, pulling off to 12. On the next string, we got 14, 13, 14, 16, 11, 12, and 9. Same technique. Tap, legato descend, and sweep on the ascend. All right, one final pointer to these. Once you get the 3 shapes memorized, you can now play all the way through the key diatonically with using your chord scales. So basically what you want to do is if you're in a major key, you just want to figure out what the 7 chords are in the key. So for example, if you're in E major, the formula goes like this. Your 1, 4, and 5 chords are major, 2, 3, and 6 are minor, and 7's diminished. So you go through the scale, work out what those pitches are that land on those notes, and apply the 3-octave arpeggio to those tones. And you can play diatonically through the entire key, playing 3-octave legato arpeggios. So have fun and tear it up. All right, in this section I've composed a string skipping legato solo, and before I actually play the solo, I'm going to take you step by step through each arpeggio pattern. So let's get started. Here's the first one. It is a major 7. So you're going to start on the first string, 9 to 5, so pick, pull off, and then you're going to go to the 3rd string, which is going to be 9 to 6, 4th string, 7, 6. So the pattern is this. The next arpeggio is C sharp diminished. I'm sorry, it's actually C sharp minor 7 flat 5. Here it is. So 12-9 and 12-9, both first and third string. And then on the 4th string, you've got 11 and 9. And the next arpeggio is B minor 7, 1st string, 10th fret, pull off to 7, Skip to the third string, 11-7, fourth string, 9-7. And next arpeggio is really cool. This is a D minor add 9. It's got a pretty big stretch in it. You're going to be stretching from 10 to 5. Skip to the third string. You're going to be playing 10 to 7. And then on the fourth string, we got 9-7. We also have a D major 7th. That's going to be on first string 14th, 10th. Skip to the third string, 14, 11. And then 12 and 11. And then we have D minor 7 that follows. All right, before we do the solo, I'm going to show you the sequence that I'm going to be using through every measure. So let's take a look at that. Here it goes. Again, a little bit slower. All right, so that's the sequence that's going to be used. You're going to just apply that sequence to every arpeggio in the solo. All right, what we're going to do now is take a look at it played a little bit slower, a little bit of pointers on the technique. It's all legato. We're still going to use that same approach, only pick when you ascend. Here it is. All right, let me play it one more time. This time we're going to focus in on the right hand, so pay close attention to what the picking hand's doing.